They called it Eos Prime, a rocky, wind-scarred exoplanet orbiting a red dwarf star 43 light-years from Earth. Until a month ago, it was just another barren world in NASA's expanding database. No atmosphere. No magnetic field. Nothing but dust and dead stone. Then came the signal. It was weak, distorted, and pulsing on a narrow radio band, just enough to trigger the Deep Space Network's curiosity. It repeated every 12 hours, encoded in a non-random pattern. Not natural. Not human. And it had been transmitting for over 300 years. NASA rechecked the data. Then rechecked again. The signal came from the equator of Eos Prime, specifically, from a deep chasm that hadn't even been visible in prior satellite sweeps. Something was broadcasting from inside that crevice. Something old. A mission was assembled in record time. No press, no public announcements. This wasn't for headlines. This was the kind of thing that went straight to the top: defense, intelligence, even black budget sectors the public didn't know existed. The Odyssey, a prototype deep space reconnaissance ship, was pulled out of mothballs and refitted. A small crew of 6 was assigned, specialists in xenoarchaeology, exobiology, engineering, and military security. The goal: investigate the signal. Assess any threat. And above all, bring back answers. I was one of them. Dr. Elena Reyes, exoanthropologist. I'd studied theoretical alien civilizations for over a decade. Papers, simulations, thought experiments. But I'd never imagined I'd set foot on what might be an actual alien colony. And I never imagined what we'd find there. The journey to Eos Prime took 6 weeks. Most of it was quiet, long hours of prep, simulations, and scanning the planet as we approached. The chasm where the signal originated was now designated Site Theta 7. It didn't look natural. The satellite images revealed a perfectly hexagonal depression, like something melted the rock away with surgical precision. A canyon over 2 kilometers wide, plunging straight down into blackness. No craters, no erosion, no indication of how it formed. We landed the Odyssey on the edge of the chasm. The wind screamed across the barren surface. The sky was a burnt crimson, and the gravity was lighter than Earth, making every step feel like wading through a dream. We took the descent vehicle down on day 2. As we dropped into the chasm, sunlight vanished. Only our exterior lights illuminated the descent, revealing walls lined with strange geometric patterns. They weren't natural. They weren't even weathered. Whatever carved them had done so with impossible precision. The signal grew stronger the deeper we went. Finally, 2.4 kilometers down, the walls opened up into a massive underground complex. We called it the core. It was a city. Not ruins. A city. Frozen in time. The structures were alien, yes, but not organic or chaotic like we'd imagined. They were crystalline, angular. Roads spiraled in fractal loops. Towers rose like mirrored thorns, some still flickering with pale blue light. It wasn't abandoned. Not completely. At first, we thought it was safe. The air in the core was breathable, surprisingly. There was oxygen, not a lot, but enough. Somehow, the atmosphere within the city had been preserved, perhaps recycled by machines still running after centuries. We explored cautiously. Signs of life were everywhere, or at least, signs of former life. Fossilized remains of alien beings were discovered embedded in structures, preserved like insects in amber. They were tall, elongated, with 3-jointed limbs and skulls like tapered shells. But something was wrong. There were no signs of decay. The bodies hadn't rotted. They hadn't aged. It was as if time had stopped for them. And we weren't alone. Our motion scanners began picking up movement, faint, erratic, always on the edge of our range. Sometimes lights would flicker on in the distance, then vanish. Once, we found one of our survey drones torn open, its internal electronics missing, like something had dissected it. Then one night, while we camped near what we assumed was a central control spire, we heard the first sound, not from our equipment, not from each other, but from somewhere inside the city. A deep, low hum. It came from the spire. It was waking up. The hum grew louder as we approached the central spire. It wasn't just noise, it had rhythm. A kind of pulse, like a heartbeat. We recorded it, ran spectral analysis. It contained structured data. A repeating pattern that mirrored the original signal received on Earth. But now it was evolving. What if the signal wasn't a distress call? I said aloud as we stood before the spire's base. What if it was a beacon? Or worse, a trigger? Commander Harlan didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the spire, hand resting on his weapon. We entered the spire the next day. Its interior was hollow, an enormous shaft that stretched hundreds of meters up. Platforms spiraled along the walls. Strange glowing conduits twisted upward, filled with something that looked alive, moving fluid, pulsing like veins. And at the center of it all was a sphere, hovering midair, perfectly still, the size of a small car, blacker than space. No reflection, no light. Dr. Liao, our physicist, approached it first. He held out a scanner. It went wild, readings off the charts, quantum noise, negative mass estimates, magnetic fields and impossible orientations. This shouldn't exist, he whispered. The moment he touched it, the entire spire lit up. Every wall, every conduit, every panel, glowing blue. And outside, the city followed. The core was waking up. And something inside it was watching us. The temperature dropped. Not gradually, instantly. From a tolerable 16 degrees Celsius to minus 12 degrees Celsius in less than a second. Our suits kicked in, heaters flaring, but the shock rattled all of us. The light outside turned cold, that same pale blue, flickering like candlelight. Then came the voices. Not out loud. Not in the air. They were inside our heads. Whispers in a language none of us spoke, but somehow understood. Images, emotions, flashes of memory that weren't ours. Faces. Buildings. Starships flying through a different sky. I saw a planet explode, shattered into ash. I saw towers crumbling under black storms. I saw the alien species, the ones now fossilized, screaming as the sphere consumed them. It's not a city, I said. It's a tomb. No, said Dr. Liao, his voice hollow. It's a prison. We tried to leave. Commander Harlan ordered an immediate extraction. The core was no longer stable, power readings were spiking, seismic activity had begun, and worse, people were changing. First was Reese, our engineer. She started talking to someone that wasn't there. Whispering. Smiling. Then screaming. We found her crouched in the maintenance bay, her eyes black, her skin covered in geometric scars, glowing. She attacked Liao with inhuman strength before Harlan shot her twice in the chest. She didn't bleed. She turned to dust. Something's rewriting us, I realized. Whatever's in that sphere, it's not just awake. It's infecting us. The ship was locked down. The Odyssey systems had been hijacked. Every panel, every screen now displayed a spiral symbol we hadn't seen before. One by one, our external links were severed. We weren't going home. Unless we stopped it. Through scattered records, etched into crystal slabs, displayed on alien consoles, we began to understand the truth. The beings who lived here, 300 years ago, weren't explorers. They were refugees. They fled a war. Not with another species, but with a force they discovered buried beneath their original world. A force without name or form. Something ancient, sentient, and hostile to all life. A conscious void. They tried to contain it. Tried to trap it inside a synthetic construct, the sphere. They failed. It devoured them from the inside, turning their cities against them. Corrupting their machines. Possessing their minds. Only this one colony remained, barely able to contain the entity before sealing itself forever. Until we arrived. Until we woke it up. With the sphere fully active, the corruption spread fast. Walls were formed into impossible shapes. Gravity shifted unpredictably. Time itself began to stutter, seconds looping, reality glitching. We were standing in a dying simulation. One by one, the crew vanished. Dr. Liao walked into a wall and never came out. Commander Harlan stayed behind with explosives, detonating the secondary power core in a last attempt to sever the spire from the rest of the city. I ran. I don't remember how I got back to the surface. Just fragments, running through tunnels of shifting crystal, the sky bleeding color, the sound of whispers turning into screams. I reached the Odyssey. The ship responded to me, somehow. I wasn't corrupted. Not yet. Maybe the entity hadn't found my mind compatible. Or maybe it wanted me to escape. To spread. I launched. The planet vanished beneath me. The signal stopped. But not before uploading something into our network. I'm recording this from a classified orbital station in lunar orbit. They quarantined me. They're running tests. Brain scans. Blood work. I told them everything. They don't believe me. But I can feel it now. In my dreams, I see the spire. I hear the hum. I feel the sphere calling. Not from Eos Prime, but from inside me. We didn't find an abandoned alien colony. We released something. And now it's coming for all of us. Transmission ends. They kept me isolated. The station was cold, silent. All personnel wore containment suits. No mirrors. No direct light. They were afraid I wasn't just a witness, but a carrier. I heard whispers in the walls. Even in this sterile metal tomb above the moon, the entity's presence lingered. On day 3 of quarantine, I found a message scratched into my steel bunk. You brought it back. I hadn't left my room. No tools. No metal. No chance for hallucinations, or so they told me. But I knew. The sphere had imprinted itself on my mind. On my nervous system. On something deeper. And now, every time I closed my eyes, I saw the colony again, not as it was when we arrived, but how it had been before it fell. And I saw what destroyed it. They called it the Shaper. The alien records didn't give it a form, it didn't have one. It wasn't matter. It wasn't energy. It was an idea that had learned how to wear bodies. How to wear planets. The Shaper came from the void between galaxies, not a life form, but a predatory concept. It didn't feed like a parasite. It didn't kill like a virus. It rewrote its hosts. First minds. Then biology. Then physics. The beings of Eos Prime had tried to contain it inside a device built from folded time, the sphere. They thought they'd sealed it forever. But eternity is long. And the Shaper waits. It waited for minds. For curiosity. For us. Day 5 of quarantine, something went wrong. All lights on the lunar station flickered red. Emergency klaxons screamed. The staff panicked. Doors locked. Systems began failing one by one. Then the gravity reversed. Just for a second. Just long enough for every person in the room to lift off the ground, and for 3 of them to vanish in midair. No flash. No sound. Just gone. I knew what was happening. The Shaper was rewriting the rules again. It had uploaded through me, or through the Odyssey systems before I left orbit. And now, it was in Earth's network. Spreading through satellites, defense grids, AI systems. The same way it consumed Eos Prime. One mind at a time. They moved me to Deep Station 9, a submerged lab beneath the Mariana Trench. No wireless. No networks. Pure isolation. They hoped the pressure would slow it down. That water and distance would protect the planet. But it wasn't a physical threat anymore. It was information. A single pattern, the spiral, now called Omega Theta, had been identified in dozens of systems across Earth. In code. In random number generators. Even in dream mapping algorithms. Once seen, it stuck. People who saw it experienced hallucinations. Somewhat catatonic. Others spoke in languages they didn't know. A few became violently obsessed with geometry, carving spirals into walls, skin, and metal. It was spreading faster than any virus. And no firewall could stop an idea. On day 18, I met Director Halvorsen. She was part of an international Black Ops initiative known as Project Nullfire. Their mission was simple. If the Shaper infects Earth, we burn everything. They had nukes in orbit. EMP generators ready to wipe out half the planet's tech. Even a deep Earth plasma drill designed to collapse the entire crust in a last-ditch scenario. It sounded extreme. Until I saw the numbers. Within 3 weeks of Odyssey's return, 22% of Earth's AI-driven systems had registered pattern corruption. Entire labs went silent. Satellites stopped responding. Submarine crews reported static whispers under the sea. On day 24, I stopped sleeping. Not because I couldn't, but because every time I closed my eyes, I was pulled into its world. A place without shape or time. A spiraling abyss filled with eyes that weren't eyes, and voices that spoke through memory. I saw my childhood. My parents. My first kiss. All rewritten. All infected. It wasn't showing me dreams. It was indexing my mind. Mapping every neuron. Every thought. Every fear. And then, it spoke. Not in words, but in understanding. You opened the door. You are the first. You are the vessel. When I woke up, I wasn't in my room anymore. I was back in the Odyssey. Except it wasn't the ship. It was a simulation. A memory rebuilt by the Shaper. The rest of my crew were there. All of them smiling. Even Reese. This will be my last entry. If you're reading this, the spiral has already found its way into your mind. Maybe you saw a strange shape on the screen. A pattern in your dreams. Maybe a whisper you can't forget. It doesn't need technology to spread anymore. It just needs attention. It wants your curiosity. I'm going offline now. For good. Project Nullfire is preparing to activate Earth-wide blackout protocols. They think darkness will protect us. But I know better. You can't escape an idea. You can't kill a thought. And the spiral thinks back.